All right, great people. We can waste no more time. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. All right, we are recording. So hopefully everybody's feeling great this evening. Good to see everybody on. Excited to be here as always. Had a really good weekly watch list. I had an opportunity to take a look at the futures tonight and see where we're at next. So good stuff. And we're gonna move into this week. Really thinking that this week will be, even though the volume, of course, will be lighter, looking at this week to be a risk on type market, right? So I do think some appetizers, people are going to be looking at some things appetizer wise going into the holiday. And then just as well going into next year. I think there's been a lot of great things, of course, that have taken place and happened. But I want to highlight where we should be paying attention for those next opportunities at. And let me go ahead and see. Can you guys, everyone should be able to see me. I have everyone on. I was able to take roll. We got a couple of Zoom users at the bottom. So just make sure you guys do change over. We do not have any iPhones on, it looks like, or maybe one. So just make sure you guys change your name on the Zoom so we just know. So we just make sure we take a proper roll. We did take roll call. And shout out to the people that's here. See Mr. Moore on, very active in the community. Appreciate that. See a couple iPads and iPhones actually here. I want to give a special shout out, excuse me, to Miss Ivernette. I see you here in the building, Queen. Shout out to you. Very, 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 very important. Super happy for you to be here tonight with us. So do want to give you your flowers. David Osborne, we appreciate you for being here. We also have Cleve. We have Chris T. Appreciate you. Alex is still in the building. We got Adam, good brother Adam Clark, one of our 5Y members. Adam's been here for 5 years. So I just want to give Adam his flowers for stepping into the building. Always good to see his name across the screen. We have Miss Bishop in the house tonight, as always, as well, too. So it doesn't go unnoticed that, you stepped into the building. You've taken your time to be here today. And tonight, like you always are. So do want to give you your flowers. We got Miss Reed. She's back at it for the second time again today. We got Mr. Duncan in the building. We got good brother as well, Joshua in the house. Josh D. Appreciate you being here, my brother. And I'm excited to see you in the house tonight. Thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and get started. So we definitely do see on the future side right now, and I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can get this party started. We definitely do have a soft green opening so far here on the future. So let me go ahead and allow us to analyze. This is what we do nighttime prep. So if you do tend to miss the weekly watch list, in person, we can go over a few things for you to actually do here nighttime wise for that can set yourself up for success. So the main things that I really love to look at, of course, is the crypto markets. The crypto market always, to me, gives you a good sign of what the opening day, as well as the futures. As we know, crypto never closes, so Bitcoin is always on the move, up or down, even if it's only by a couple $100. The Bitcoin market never closes, and that's the beauty of it. The stock market does close, but I also think that's the beauty of that, right? It's the beauty of the stock market being able to close. I don't think that the stock market should be open all the time. That wouldn't make sense. But in the cryptocurrency exchange market, it makes a ton of sense for uh, this particular market to be there. So earlier today, we touched on BTC and we spoke on Bitcoin from the perspective of we are seeing BTC in a bear flag pattern, right? So when you do look at Bitcoin, you do see a bear flag pattern here that's been building on BTC consistently. And when we actually do take a look here at BTC underneath 80K is where we do anticipate things to slip. So looking at Bitcoin, we didn't get an opportunity to discuss, which I do want to take time now, is we didn't have a conversation about Ethereum today. And I also want to have a conversation about Solana. All right. So I do want to start off with crypto. And I do want to take an opportunity to discuss ETH and as well Solana. So when I do take a look at ETH, right now we're at 3,000. So as we know, ETH tends to really track and follow BTC. So when I line both of these bad boys up, which I'm gonna do that right now, we also do have a bear flag pattern. I'm gonna get my rectangle tool to build this bear flag. And you did see us break a little bit outside. So we did go ahead and actually break outside of this pattern. So you can see that expressed here. So BTC boys, Bitcoin boys, you 250 boys, unfortunately it just didn't happen. And I think it was a great thing that 250 did not happen as we get ready to close the end of this year. I find beauty in that, right? Like I do find beauty that 250K did not happen. And the reason why I say I find beauty in it is because now Bitcoin still allows us to be able to get in. I made a statement earlier and I said if Bitcoin finds its way to 55K, 60K, even 70K, and even right now where it's at, let's say it doesn't, I'm confident that a lot of us, especially for you think about homeowners. We have a lot of individuals within the community that have been homeowners for 10, 15, 20 plus years already. And I made the analogy and I said, hey, don't let BTC come back down to 50K. I said, I think you're going to see a lot of people look to sell their homes. People who are looking and saying, hey, sell their homes, or so a lot of people have multiple. Some people do have multiple homes and rental properties and real estate investments and real estate properties. I said, don't be surprised if you see a lot of people looking to raise some cash and some properties if Bitcoin is to come down to 74K, 66K. And it would make a ton of sense. You look at what the average home cost here in the United States of America, roughly ranging between 400 to 450,000, across the board. Of course, you have your higher spectrums, your higher markets, like California, where, that number is going to be 900 to $1 million, on average or more, right? And then you take a look across the board at, other markets that may be smaller. You take a look across, America, your different markets there, Midwest and, different areas of the country where real estate is a lot cheaper. And you take a look and I think that you would see some liquidations there, people looking to sell because of the awareness. So at BTC, I look at this as an opportunity, right? The opportunities has presented itself. But then you also have these auxiliary names, the alt, right? The altcoins, right? The auxiliary names that do end up providing you some value, and from that value standpoint, they can provide you yield, right? And so when I do take a look at ETH, you have a similar bear flag pattern, right? So the bear flag pattern is going to be very, very important for me to be able to dissect, right? And now when I do take a look at ETH, I am seeing a couple of things here. So if we can break underneath this 2,700, I want you guys to put those notes down for yourself. Underneath 2,700, you are going to see a retracement and a pullback on this particular crypto. To me, as low as I'm looking at like 1,700. So that's really where I'm watching. Now, I do see an area where we could see some buyers step in at 2,300, but I do want to see ETH potentially gap down. And I want to see ETH actually go ahead and get below, like I said, that 2,700. So if you guys can actually hear me, I want you guys to make sure you put some comments in the chat, right? And I want everybody to make sure they put some comments in the chat just to make sure my volume level is good. Getting a little bit of feedback, so I just want to make sure that my volume level is good and we're good to go. If everyone can go ahead and hear me, just want to make sure. All right, cool, perfect. Thank you. So when I do see this, I do want to watch us underneath this 2,700 on this bear flag. I would like to see if price can rally to the downside. So the reason why I discuss this is important. You see these buyers where we're wicking here. And so there was a lot of buyers where price was actually on the upside here in June of 2025, where we actually weren't breaking above. And so what I want you guys to go ahead and do is if you guys can now see here, if we break underneath that 2,700, you're now going to now see us get down to, in my opinion, 2,300. So as BTC pulls back down and we fall here to the wayside and the downside, BTC under 80K, ETH is bear flagging. So the longer that ETH flags, the easier it is going to be for it to get crushed below that $2,700 level. So $2,700, put that down. You should have that number there. That's where we'll get crushed on ETH. So you got basically $300 window. Underneath there, you'll fall down all the way to $2,388, right? And so when you now think about this, I want you guys to be thinking about accumulating, right? So hold on one second. I've been waiting for 31 minutes. Hold on one second. I think some people are in the wrong zone. 1 second. Mm, 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 mm. 1 second. Just want to make sure maybe there was a mishap. So just want to make sure everybody's good. Mm, 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 mm. All right. Everybody should be able to hear and we should be good to go. All right, cool. So let's see. We got 154. So I think a couple people were. So apologies on that if there was a mix up. So yes, underneath 2,700, you want to watch out for there, and then we can go ahead and pull down. So BTC. Now you have ETH, which I would put a 70% chance that we are going to see ETH go down to $22. So Ethereum U, you have a 22% chance. I'm assuming not a 22, a 70% chance you go to $22. So ETH is currently at 55 bucks. The way to play this, this is a 2x levered Ethereum ETF. So the lower that Ethereum goes, the more that this gives you bang for your buck. I wouldn't suggest really buying it today. I would definitely go ahead and wait for a move here on the downside. I think the move on the downside makes a ton of sense. So, looking at ETH underneath 22 would be ideal. So any real destruction in Ethereum's path right now, you are going to see a pullback here on the downside. So Ethereum to me is going to look to take a move downward. And as we see that move down below that 2,700, ETH will start to unload. So I'm definitely looking for ETH there on the downside. And if I can see ETH break here on the downside, $22 is that level. 15 is, I think 15 is that overkill level, where at 15, you just have something nice for it. You have a nice chunk of change there for it. So those are that's my thought process as far as Ethereum, ETH, BTC. So just reiterating some of the things, especially with BTC, we've covered BTC every single week. So we're just trying to make sure that people do know what's exactly happening here with BTC and what's the ways that you can actually benefit from this recent price action and price movement. So those are my thoughts. Now, want to take it to, I'll leave the index over here for now, QQQ, just as levels for those that may have missed from earlier. You want to watch the Qs at 622 this week. And then after 622, you want to go ahead and watch us at 626. So those are going to be the levels to watch for the week. If we can, like I said, if we can see a move to the upside, that'd be, of course, very, very, very important. So would like to see, QQQ break out. They're on the up and up. And what can help that is I'm actually going to come to a couple of tickers. One, I want to talk about Dell Technologies. So the reason why I want to highlight Dell, and I'm actually going to go solo real quick, is Dell is in the midst of a very, very, very important time right now, company wise. Dell currently is here at valued at a 16p to E. So Dell, of course, has been around the block a minute. They are not new to this. They are true to this. So I want everyone to pull up Dell Technologies. Just want to provide some coverage. So we have quite a few people in the community. So Dell is one of my dark horses for 2026. And when I say a dark horse, I say this is one that could be a bit sneaky. And the reason why, to me, Dow is, to me, the Dell Inc. Dell Technologies, excuse me. Right, Dell Technologies is a company that I've been following and covering here for a while. A $7.48 P to E ratio. $7.48 earnings in the past 12 months. A 16 P to E ratio. And then you have a 333 million outstanding shares with a 31% earnings growth quarter over quarter. Now, what is the growth? When you take a look at the growth from the company standpoint, relatively they did try to actually take a move back to where they got to this highest peak year 179. Now they've been stuck within this range, and you can see it here plain as day here on the monthly time frame. So on a monthly, Dell's been publicly traded here since 2019. So you would actually think, we understand Dell's been around a long period of time, but Dell, from a publicly traded perspective, less than a decade. So they're new as far as more so the public markets, but we all know that Dell has been around this business for a long, 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 long time. So some areas of their key things sales wise, sales definitely will be the focal point for them. Uh, as a lot of companies, especially when it comes to this AI era, right? Especially companies that love to guide higher. Guidance will be key. Now you'll see this sharp candle here in November. That's when Dell actually got to their peak here in November, November 3rd, and then just, broke here to the downside. So if I was looking at Dell from a long-term investor perspective, where would you want to buy Dell? Roughly, I would say around 16 P to E is not bad to pay for this business. 16 price to earnings ratio, but I think this is really fair. This is a fair price, but it is not to me the right price. The right price to me is around about $85 to $95 range. That's where I believe the right price really lies. So I want to say that to people that are listening here now. 85 to 95 is the right place for you to actually go ahead and buy Dell Technologies. So just my thoughts and, what I wanted to bring across to make sure that people understood Dell Technologies there. Very strong company for you to get, and you're getting a really, 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 really fair price. So a really fair price, Dell Technologies at this time. So we're looking there. We would love to see Dell and what they can do here over the next few years. So those are my thoughts. 2026 price target of $165. So $40 increase from where they're at today. That's my 2026 price target for Dell Technologies. Right. So that's what I have on them. Now, to kind of recap, one of the things I discussed earlier, for those that just missed, just real quick, UPS is going to be one of our comeback. We'll call it UPS is our preliminary, and not to say that they'll be the only ticker, but they are one of the companies that we're looking at for comeback player of the year. So when you look at UPS, they are in this huge falling channel. Now, if you look on a monthly time frame, you can see that here plain as day. So this is a massive monthly falling wedge. So as you think, as time ticks on, and you get to February, you get to March, you get to April, we can start to get back, move back upward. This is the time, in my opinion, to really buy. And this is why I wanted to double down on what I said earlier about UPS. Now, we understand as UPS growth or value, they are more in the value because of how long they've been able to do it. But I do want to say that when you take a look at UPS, this is a business that's been around a while, right? Like UPS has, of course, proven themselves, but they also went through in 2025 cost cutting effective strategies. So their goal was for them to cut costs, right? They obviously trimmed, quote unquote, their workforce and fat, right? As people would call it. They trimmed the fat. Now, there was a lot of areas to me, business wise, where what do you guys think about this? What, when the removal of the UPS driver, and that's going to happen by end of decade. Not to say that no drivers will be driving, but just think about how many, a UPS driver makes a really nice salary. They take care of their people. UPS drivers, not saying but they make a bag. You know what I'm saying? They make a nice bag for what they do, as they should. They should make more, right? And that's always my MO. I'm always push for, people to me are underpaid across the board here in the United States of America. People should be paid 20 to 30% more, especially when you factor in and take out taxes, right? Like people should be paid more. And that's just what I believe. Now, the UPS in this channel is about where you buy. And so I really do like UPS for 2026 because of this falling channel. And I just wanted to reiterate that they need to move back above 115, 120. So that 115, 120 is going to be either very, 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 very important, ladies and gentlemen, here. So it's going to be very important that we are able to see a major move, back on the upside. So just my thoughts on UPS. We've been, like I said, we've had a incredible amount of success here with UPS here on the up and up. So definitely do want to highlight UPS there. And in the past, we've had a couple good trades on them, but we want to know where they're at. And this is one that has been able to, once again, perform in a negative way for now. But they were able to bounce at $80 for a reason because of the value and where people actually wanted to pick those companies up at. So those are my thoughts at this time here. All right. Next one I want to get a jump on is Wing. Everyone pull up Wingstop. So Wingstop Inc. Want you guys to put this down. Give you guys some game. So Wingstop, you have a double bottom pattern here on the weekly, and you can see it as well on the monthly. So first bottom was here March of this year. Second bottom occurred in November of this year. So I want to give you guys some notes on ticker WING, and that's ticker Wingstop. So Wingstop is, I'm not going to say they're going to smash you over the head options wise, but they're definitely not the cheaper options type trading company. So when you are looking, to me, it's a clear defined break over over 262. Now, when we dive into Wing, WING, Wingstop Inc. is a what company? It is a low floater. So low float, which means there's only 27 million shares outstanding. Now, 13% of those shares are actually being held short, which is right there around almost 3 million of them. So off rip, you guys understood that this is a low floater. Now, the reason why I do pay attention and I do appreciate Wingstop is this also is a seasonality play, because you think about it, two things, right? We are going to be getting ready to head as well into, especially next year, We'll be heading in, during live event type seasons. Usually during like a lot of times during the summertime and springtime, this is where we tend to see Wingstop and some of the other uh, companies within their sector and space. You have your DPZs, your Domino's pizzas, etc. They do well. And even some of the other restaurants, you have your Dardens that tend to perform well, Yum Brands, etc. So when you are looking at Wingstop, if we can see 262 break, now this is a low floater. So remember, it doesn't take much to get this thing moving. But if you notice, since really September, we have not been able to really break out. So this is one that's going to really take a rush of volume. So how it's going to move is it's going to take a rush of volume to be able to push this stock price over 262 to be able to hold, right? So we have not really had many days where we've been able to get above those levels. So when you do take a look here at ticker WING, right? Does it, can we actually see it take a move up? All right. Next thing we're going to discuss is ELF. And then we got a few more tickers, right? So I want to talk about a couple things here with ELF. So obviously we saw a major breakdown outside of this bull flag, invalidated it. It came back down to about $80 a share, right? So you did see that, and we rejected right here. And that's when price ended up pulling back. So for the most part, you're not going um, to me, you're not going to see a ton of moving on ELF day to day. This is something that more so moves really honestly, whether earnings, it does take a significant amount of news to really push this specific stock upwards. So to me, now when I do look back at ELF, we do have a double top, right? We had that double top here in 2024. ELF Beauty came down. We're here on a weekly. So we're on a weekly time frame. Once again, we had this bull flag that got invalidated. So then price actually broke here to the downside. So then boom, we ended up coming here down and price invalidate this and sold. But now let's actually take a look at the DNA. Shout out to ELF, which currently has a 57 P to E ratio. So if you bought it today, you would be overpaying. Ideally, you would say that you wouldn't really want to pick up ELF until you got 50. So I think in 2026, it's about selling cash secure puts. Is this a ticker that you want? Selling cash secured puts would make sense for the 50 and below. So I would say don't buy the ticker today just because off of where the price is at, price to earnings. They did have some slippage. And you also can read this. I'm going to drop this on ELF. Funny enough, we're talking about the valuation. And I just happen to just pull up the ticker here on Yahoo. And you'll see what I'm talking about. I actually just put it in the Discord. You'll actually see that they're talking about the valuation right now. So it looks like reassessing ELF Beauty valuation, recent share price pullback. So they're assessing, their valuation. And I do think that they said the most popular narrative is that 33.9% undervalued. The analysts have consensus price target of $139 on ELF. So I personally would say that I do think that we're likely to probably drop down maybe a bit first. Like I wouldn't be surprised, especially if we got below what is this right here at 67 bucks. So like I said, I like best price scenario would be about 35 to 40 bucks. So that would be about a 50% drop. That would be roughly to me your best price. But I do think that it is good. You have good value actually here in this range. So I do think this is an area where you got good value. I think it's worth the shot. You got good value here. Good value here. But I would say that ideally that 60 underneath 68 and you come down to $60 would make a ton of sense. So Elf Beauty, when you look at the DNA statistics, how many outstanding shares do they have? That's one of the few questions you should always go to. 60 million. Now, this is a low floater. So low floater companies tend to, we understand, be the companies that sometimes do have that high short interest. So if they do rush next year, they could get a short squeeze to happen. So Elf Beauty is likely, if this is a strategy you want to employ, two strategies I'll say up front. Selling cash secure puts for $50 or $60 to get put to the stock at those prices, I think would make sense. Or if you are looking particularly long-term investment wise, just, you just maybe want to buy the shares outright. I don't think that would be a bad thing, but I think you're overpaying for it here. Current prices is that this company is overvalued. And if you bought it today, you would be paying a bit too much for a company that's only earning this. So, yeah, um, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on this name. So low, right? Low floater companies, when you have less than 500 million shares outstanding, it's a lot easier for people when they're shorting these investments to actually make headway, right? And so when shorts are actually higher than that 10% yield right here, that opens up a lot of times the door, especially for lower float companies. You only have 60 million shares. So that means almost five and a half of them are actually being held short wise. So for those that are listening and saying, okay, he keeps saying short. And shout out to everyone that's on here tonight. How many people? We got 175 people here that's on this Zoom tonight. Shout out to everybody that showed up here. Appreciative. And this is what it's about. It's obviously holiday time. I know people are traveling, and I'm grateful for the people that are here. For those that are watching that will be watching the recording, we appreciate you for your consistency and coming in. But I'm loving to catch people in kind of some of their downtime. I know a lot of people are taking vacations or going and seeing family. So enjoy all of that time. And for those that'll be watching this recording, just want to give you your flowers here. Right. But we want to be, this is what we call consistency, showing up, doing the nitty gritty, actually having some evaluation. And you see how much more calmer it is to do the evaluation when the market, you know what I mean? When the market is not actually open, you almost feel a major sense of just relief when the market isn't open, and you can just kind of do some of your fundamental research and take a look at your technicals to just kind of allow things to relax. So when I am looking at, we're going to go through some more companies and break these things down. Across the board, the main question I've gotten is, Lawrence, are you bullish or bearish? As far as overall market standpoint, NASDAQ, S&P, and DIA, am I bullish or bearish? Do I think we'll have a positive year, or do I think we have a negative year? And there's only one right answer, but there's two obviously answers. And I mean, going inside, it's hard for me to imagine a negative year. I would say it comes down to earnings justification. And these are just things that are maybe above, I think, a lot. Like, we're in the rooms as far as listening into the earnings calls. And I think we have a lot. I think the market is so very much optimistic that we're just going to surge and fly. And usually when the market is leaning into too much of the one direction, just from what I've seen, market makers usually make it go the other way. Like, that's the job of a market maker, is to be a shark, is to swim in the deep ends and to get people to think in one thing and then switcheroo. So those are my thoughts. I would say NASDAQ, I'm worried only because there's so many businesses in the NASDAQ. When you look at ETF.com, and you pull up ETF.com and you go to the QQQ, and you by now, for the most part, should know majority of the tickers, especially within the top 10. You know what I mean? You have majority of the tickers that you know. But there's a couple of things shakeup wise. Like Palantir is closing the year top 10 in the NASDAQ. We go back to last year, at this end of the time, Palantir was still fighting its way up from, you know, 40 to 30. So to me, you're looking at Palantir and they're in the top 10. Hell, Palantir passed Netflix and they're knocking on Meta's heels. So Palantir is saying, hey, we put our name in a conversation. But is this too much? 2.29% Palantir. Is that too much in the NASDAQ and the QQQ? Now, you also have, Costco, which now sitting on the outside looking in. And then you have AMD, which is sitting on the outside looking in saying, hey, can we get in the top 10? But then you also have Micron, which is a bad boy. Micron, oh my goodness. Whew. Micron's been going crazy. Then you have as well AppLovin right there at 1.16%. And then as well, you do have Costco, like I said, that's right underneath Netflix, where Costco, their performance, and we'll come to Costco real quick just from a technical perspective. Obviously, Costco sat in the top 10 on the NASDAQ for a number of years. Costco has been tweening in between 11 and 13, but they've sat on the top of the NASDAQ for a while. You know what I mean? Sitting up there in the top 15, they've definitely been able to handle their business. But I want to take something off here on Costco. They're breaking some key levels, right? I was looking at Costco. I remember I had an alert set for 886 and it went off. And I remember when it went off and I was like, it's hard for me to even, the word short in Costco to me don't even belong in the same sentence. But this is where I'm also looking at Costco and saying, why would people be rotating out of Costco? So for ticker COST, when you look at the selling, what's the main selling point here on Costco, right? Or are they reaching a selling point, or are they showing more strength and people are just taking profits for now? Is this a buying opportunity? And also, is Costco going to be doing a split? Those are the conversations. Costco hit $1,000. They did pull back. But Costco currently right now has 443 million shares outstanding. Says 443 million. They are a low floater. Now, could we see Costco do a split in 2026? That's been another main question that's been asked of me. Shout out to Mills, Montana. I believe you asked me directly here about Costco, so I can also provide coverage. Now, when you are taking a look at this particular equity, cost, ticker COST, you do have the level that rings a bell in my eye is that 788 one. And as well, 697. Now, if I told you at $1,000 that you could get Costco maybe at 600 again, you would take it. I'm gonna tell you that right now. At 600, it would be like buying Eli Lilly at 600. When I told people, hey, you better be looking at Eli Lilly at these levels. Then Eli Lilly hits 1,000, and then, oh my God, Eli Lilly. I want an Eli Lilly. They're gonna sell, take some profits, probably consolidate for some time. So when I am looking at cost, we can make a strong case that for Costco, we can actually see us get into that 841. So $841 a share. I want you guys to put that down. 841. So I want you guys to put that down. 841. Watch it. And Costco, I think in 2026, you're going to get a shot at maybe 750. 600, just can't say it. And it's not a bias, but I do want to kind of hold out of just saying going super bear on Costco. But I would say worst case scenario on Costco next year, which I think would be incredibly hard. Like Costco sales have to be tanking on Costco for them to fall that hard. You know what I mean? Sales got to be tanking. You got to be getting crushed and creamed, like just crushed. So cost is one where we can anticipate them to pull more down, in my opinion, in the NASDAQ ETF. I think that you'll see AMD pass Costco and Micron will pass Costco. And those are not, to me, those are not like, oh my God, he said something pro. No, those are just regular day at the office. You can common sense things. You can see it plain as day. So just my reiteration on Costco, I think that their asset allocation in the NASDAQ will get dropped more. And so will Cisco, and Micron is coming for them. Now, I want to talk to you guys about Netflix, right? So NFLX, when you are taking a look at the NFLX, you still are not out of the woodworks yet. So I know some people see Netflix pausing, but they're the same thing in a bear flag. So if you're looking at Netflix, my particular perspective is still remains $55 to $65 as being the entry price. Like that's at $550 basically pre this last split. You would not miss Netflix. You would buy it, you would forget you bought it, and you would come back when it was at 120, 130, 150 again, right? To make whatever move that you'll need to make. So NFLX is we'll have football on Christmas, which I still am trying to wrap my head around why they thought that was a good idea. But Netflix has done an amazing thing. I mean, these live events and the bags and the purses. We talked about TKO earlier, which TKO Group Holdings is one of the particular equities and stocks we're very high on for 2026. And we were high on as well for 2025, and we expect that trend to continue. I just believe Netflix with this Warner Bros. Situation, this is not a bad thing, but it's a long-term build. But in the short term, investors, if they don't see the vision, which I think a lot of people do, but you want to be mindful that Netflix could fall more in the short term. But I think any more of a drop further, Netflix falls 20, I mean, 20, 25, 30, you want to be a buyer of that particular equity. So Netflix, you want to be a buyer. Do not miss out, like I said, on your opportunity, your chance at, Netflix getting a generational stock at a really fair price. So those are my thoughts there on Netflix. Keep this thing going. I want to actually go to what does it mean to have a risk on versus risk off? So this directly from the lab. I feel like it's been maybe a long time since I pulled up Investopedia. Shout out to Caleb Silver and the team at Investopedia. We really do appreciate you. Investopedia changed my life. So I have nothing but respect for Investopedia and the team over there and everything that they've put on this platform to be able to provide value. So when we're in a risk on type appetite, that means people are willing to take more risk. So your high growth names, when you are seeing high growth names run, across the board, you have your Nebuses, your OKLOs, even Palantir, right? Palantir is a name that you are going to be able to see, over and over again, right in that risk on type appetite. So back in early 2025, when the market dropped and we went very risk off because DT was like, hey, I'm a tariff man, and slapping 20% here, baby, 100% here, 200%. You know what I'm saying? He just went crazy, 200% here, 100% tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, reciprocal. You know what I mean? And he was just going nuts. But you notice that I'm not going to say all those tariffs are at the same level, but notice that tariffs didn't go away, but deals got done. And a statement I made back in February and March was long before the deals would become finalized, the market would go back to an all-time high. And that's exactly what you see here. The market is back to what? Well over an all-time high. So the market will tend to switch very quickly back to risk on because we live in a society right now where no one really wants to miss the next this. So if you can get some good buzz around yourself and you get enough cavalry to push you, your stock price can double pretty quickly. I mean, it doesn't take much. 30% gain here on a day, another 20, another 10, and next thing you know, boom, you had 100. So biggest statements to, go to is making sure that you do understand how to navigate this thing, right? So when stocks are selling off and investors are running for shelter, gold and bonds, you tend to see gold goes up in value when the market is tending to drop. Now, just like that stock market rises on a risk on environment, a drop back in the stock market equals a risk off. All right. So risk on, risk off, risk on, risk off. Do not miss your opportunities, that are right in front of yourself when you have risk on versus risk off. Very, 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 very important to know. And you can tell NASDAQ falls 10%. There's no question on whether it's on or off. It's off. The lights have been cut off. And so when the QQQ is down 10%, just know you are in a risk off. But risk off is not bad. Where do you think you should actually be buying? Should you be buying in risk off or risk on? Risk off or risk on, ladies and gentlemen. Where do you buy? High growth names, particularly. We're talking about high growth. Do you buy when it's on or off? You buy when it's off, 100%. You buy when it's off. And if it's not off, then you understand, okay, cool. I can miss it and I can feel comfortable. Feel comfortable knowing that, hey, if something's not at the right price, it's okay to feel comfortable and sit back and miss it because you don't want to overexpose yourself. You want to buy when it's risk off. I want you guys to put that down. When is the market in a risk off type appetite? Usually when the VIX is above 25 and 30. That's when okay, this ain't no risk on. That risk is all the way off. So once you break above 25 or 30 on the VIX, that is where the risk is turned off. Lights off. When you're at 13 and 15, 16, even 17, usually that risk is on. Ain't nothing to play around with it because that risk is on. That's when you have companies just able to give you a sweet piece of guidance and then they surge there to the upside. So you have your S&P 500, your Dow futures, your NASDAQ futures. Tomorrow, we are not going to have a necessarily a Zoom meeting, but we will go ahead and a couple of things that I just want to make note of, right, is going into tomorrow, two things, right? So one of the first things is you do have some stocks that we are looking to be on the breakout. One of those is going to be META, Meta Platforms. So last week we saw Meta try to get above 665. To me, if you're looking at Meta, it just comes down to really time because I want to break this thing down because I don't want Meta to roll around. We go to a new calendar year and then Meta actually ends up, breaking out and getting over 674 Then next thing you know, you wipe your eyes, you're like, oh snap. And then Meta's at 690. You're like, oh, what happened? And it's hitting 710. You're like, oh shoot, I got hit in the head. I missed it. And so Meta to me is one, especially in January. Even if it doesn't take off, I don't expect it to go to 710 by the end of the year. So I want to be clear on that. These next 2 weeks, it won't happen. But I do anticipate that if we can see Meta get actually above 674, it can gap to this 691. So those are my thoughts there. And there'd be a soft resistance at about 680. So look at Meta over the next 3 to 4 weeks as your sleeper pick. Look at it as your sleeper. Meta over the next 3 to 4 weeks is your sleeper. And usually when you are risk on, Mickey D's goes down. So when McDonald's is pulling back, that's when you know you're on a risk on. Because if they're selling Mickey D's, they're taking that money and going to growth. So just a quick little joke there. When you see McDonald's down significantly, you know you're in a risk on type appetite. So just my thoughts. Not to say they always just drop, but when they had those red days. Now, I want to talk about a Dow Jones Industrial Average name, and this is Home Depot. I'm interested on Home Depot for 2026 because a couple of things that I'll make note of. And I believe my personal opinion is that Home Depot, now funny, I don't, nothing's funny about this, but I do look at Home Depot and say, just what if? Which I don't think this is really a stretch. But I do think that here on Home Depot, if we get below this 322, we are going to lose. Lose it, lose it, lose it. So HD has better stay on his P's and his Q's. Stay on my Q's and my P's. Yeah. So looking at HD, pull back, valuable range. I mean, I think everybody would agree that roughly in between 220 would be to 270 would be a really great price to pick this name up. So those are my thoughts, ticker wise. So it's 10:13. And I want you guys to pay attention to the VIX tomorrow. Set an alert for 17 so you can stay abreast to 17. 1738. So now we do have the books and PDF tab. Go ahead and make sure you do your test. If you haven't submitted your test, we will go over the test answers on Tuesday. So you have until tomorrow to finish your test. Right here directly inside of Discord, do expect a lot of the PDFs that was promising you to go here, right? So company evaluations, we are providing coverage on over 100 companies. Obviously, you're not going to hold 100 companies. Makes no sense, right? But you pick and choose the names that make the most sense for one, your risk tolerance, and then two, your purse size. After you've done that, your purse size, your risk tolerance, and then as well, when you are taking a look at, hey, is this a fundamentally sound business? And ask the right questions. Don't allow yourself to leave and not, get your questions in a lot of times that you need, but also be willing to read through the information and pace yourself. If there's one thing I can say, pace yourself. You do not have to do everything all in one day, right? So you don't have to do everything in one day. Take your time, breathe. Do not force things that are not there. No need to throw picks. We seen some picks today, and my guy was throwing some of them, unfortunately. So I just want to make sure that we're on one page and one accord. Let's continue to stay locked in. We got some good stuff that's brewing here. I'm excited. We did a massive giveaway earlier. So I want to tell people, this is, super, 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 super duper important for me to stress to you guys is that You cannot rush this process, but we're able to weed out who's not serious in this process very, 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 very quickly. And so we can weed you out quick, fast, and within a hurry. And not to say we're not going to say that's a goal because that would be the wrong thing to say. But we're going to see who really wants it versus who's just talking. We're going to see who wants it. We're taking attendance on every Zoom and class that we're having. So we do want to do that just to make sure we are keeping people abreast, to say, hey, this is your track record. How long you been here? Herb Thomas ain't waste no time since he joined the community. He's been in every Zoom that he's designated to be in, and he's caught a recording, what I'm saying, when he's been able to as well. I've seen that. So just know that I can see it. So I'm going to give people their flowers, and the people that's here, this 150 some people that's here right now, these are people that are showing up. It's the same names, even my iPhones and my Zoom users, right? It's the same people that's showing up. So do not miss this opportunity right now to show up for yourself. And that's the gift that you had today is giving season. But the one gift that we should never take for granted is the fact that we woke up with breath in our bodies to be able to do the things that we are able to do today. So there was breath in this body when it woke up. And we're going to say our prayers tonight. And, we want to live another day to go out there and do it again. So every day is a blessing. It's about how you serve, about how you treat people. You know what I'm saying? It's about how you treat people. That's going to determine. So treat people with respect, treat people with honor, and treat people with dignity. And you will be blessed. There's not a day that goes by that, what I'm saying, whether high, lows, ups, downs, what I'm saying, I get to be able to be alive. You're grateful for those things. Some people that ain't make it. And you're grateful for the blessings and the things you got, right in your lap right now. Couldn't have done it. Could not have done it. And so I just want to take this time again to say thank you to everyone, but also pull the trigger, man. Pull that trigger. We got something special for you guys here in 2026. A lot of great stuff. Events already being planned out, meetups, and we gave away some, a couple great products and things this morning. So we do have a 4-day opportunity for you to come in 4 days and get one-on-one coaching directly with me. If you want that, that's $1,500, and that's a $750 deposit. Now, I'm just gonna say this: 4 days with me, that's gonna be a minimum of $2,500 in 2026. But you can lock in for 50% deposit tonight, $750 up front. The other $750 can be paid down the line as you get closer to your arrival date. But 4 core days. You lock in with me at the office space that you guys see me post, and you come get busy with me, and you get this value, and you learn and set up your system. And no gimmicks, no fluff. Obviously, you learn directly from me, like you've been doing. And so, really be serious about that. We got a couple slots available for some people. So if that's you, I would say at least lock in your $750 deposit tonight and do that, pull that trigger on that. And we'll, obviously in 2026, it'd be a ton of time and available. You don't got to rush out the gates and say, okay, I got to do it in the first 3 months. If you do, you do. If you don't, at least you paid and you will have your slot. You know what I mean? So you'll lock your slot in. You'll have up to a year to be able, not to say, I don't think anybody would need that long, but things happen. So you'll have up to a year to be able to redeem that. So there will be a chance for me to come to different cities as well too and provide a ton of value. So I'm excited for the future classes that'll be in person in a city near you, ASAP. So ASAP. We're grateful, we serve, and we just want to say thank you for a credible year. So for mentees only, we'll have Tuesday and Wednesday sessions. We'll get you guys set up with the times tomorrow. Enjoy your off day. So enjoy your off days tomorrow. Super, 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 super grateful. We've put in this work from last. I, I can't even remember the last time I had a day off. Actually, it wasn't last week at all. So make sure you're taking your vitamins. You're drinking your water. You'll see I got my Eternal water here. Make sure you drink your water, taking your vitamins, getting your rest. Your boy is about to hit the sack, about to drop, and go ahead and get that rest. So I appreciate you guys for, taking your time for being here tonight. We'll see what these futures do here in the morning. Palantir and Tesla, and as well Meta. Palantir, Tesla, and Meta. Keep your eyes on those three this week. We also got AVGO at 346. I know there was some panic in the street a little bit last week. I know they got sold off a little bit more than maybe what we expected, but notice where buyers stepped in. We showed you. And I put my bread up. You know what I'm saying? I put my bread up at those levels, when it dropped. I also didn't disappear when AVGO was down, by the way, either. There's no disappearing in this body at all. So we're gonna step to the podium. And that's why you need to take that shot with me, man. So even if you don't get access into that, we got a ton of other things that we can take care of you. So, man, really lock in more, but also get your rest as well, too. I think that's important. So take tomorrow, and just do what you got to do. And I'm here, 10 toes down. Win, lose, I'm here. Just this is what it is. This is what it is. So Joshua, I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody that's in the building. Business is business. That's gonna be my theme for 2026. If you guys didn't know, I'm a big Power fan. So me listening to Tommy, when you getting back to business, when you getting back to business, I'll be up tomorrow praising God. When you getting back to business. And so back to business is going to be my theme for 2026. Just what it is. So I'm appreciative. And let's keep this thing rolling. Y'all have a blessed night. It's 10:22. We signing off here. Let's get it. Peace. See you guys soon.